What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sales Leverage Pip to President's Club podcast. My name is Ryan Johns, founder and CEO of Sales Leverage. We started this podcast with the intent of re-educating the market on the most optimal ways to achieve sales and revenue success. Our guests consist of revenue leaders, individual contributors across sales, sales operations, marketing, business development, customer success, and even product engineering. Believe it or not, all of these teams play a critical role in the overall success of the modern revenue org. We address the most pressing challenges and offer actionable solutions that simplify the complex sale. Very, very special guest today. I have on the show Mr. Timothy Finch. Tim is the Director of Sales Operations for Anaplan, a leading provider of enterprise connected planning software. Prior to joining Anaplan, he served in multiple sales and sales operations leadership roles at Sage Software for over a decade. This is where I earned the pleasure of working with him as well. Tim has deep domain expertise across various functions within the revenue operations ecosystem. He has designed and optimized financial and operational infrastructure for various businesses, which gives him a broad and dynamic perspective on what truly drives success across adjacent teams. So Tim, welcome to the show, my man. This is long overdue.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan. Good to be here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you, man, for jumping on. For those that don't know, we're recording this Sunday morning. So Tim was gracious enough to accommodate schedules, and, we all have things to do, and, football's today. So, man, thank you so much. But I wanted to get into this topic, man. This is something you and I have talked about for the last couple of weeks and even years. And I just think you have so much insight to bring to this audience. I want to get into like the role of sales operations in driving cross-functional efficiencies across revenue ops. That's a big, big thing, right? Before we dive into that, for those that don't know, man, tell us a little bit about Anaplan. I think you've been there for 3 years now. Time is flying. So, I mean, what excited you about this opportunity, man? Like what made the switch?
For me, most of my sales background prior to Anaplan was really in the SMB mid-market space. I supported one enterprise sales team at Sage, but I didn't, I wasn't highly engaged and highly involved in helping them kind of drive and manage the business. So I think the opportunity at Anaplan to go into that space and learn that at least from a field sales perspective as well was for me a big learning opportunity. Understand kind of how do I help this type of a team, deliver sort of go-to-market strategy and, business performance standpoint. That was kind of the big driver for me. And I was excited literally about just learning about the software as I went through the interview process. My peers just told me they spend 90% of their day in the solution. And it was like, it's really, really cool. And I was excited to learn that. And it's been, in that respect, it's probably been the best from a data standpoint and getting to insights and the information I need to help. Yeah, it's been the easiest I've ever had by far. Right.
Yeah.
So at Sage and other companies, like getting data, connecting data across the organization was almost impossible for most people.
Yeah.
So when I got an opportunity to be in a space like that, where I'm not spending my time dealing with that and figuring that part out, I'm really using data to kind of drive insights and kind of focus on what I do well with sales leaders.
Yeah.
It was kind of a no-brainer for me. And the opportunity they have in the market, as a market leader, I think is awesome. I don't think they really scratched the surface yet. I think they're kind of at that inflection point where they understand the value that they bring to businesses, and it's trying to get the sales org position and in a place where they can deliver on that value and price on that value and capture as much of that value as possible.
Yeah, that's hugely important. I mean, because Anaplan, from what I've seen, is a massive organization, and you've got data. I mean, I'm sure, and so much data, but being able to look at things through the same lens and not having to piecemeal and pull it all together like other companies makes a big, big difference, I'm sure, because you don't have to necessarily interpret or translate for various purposes.
I think a big challenge for a lot of org is just having it connected, right? Having a platform connected all. Like if I've got CRM data, I've got financial data, I've got territory planning data, different things that you want to be able to connect together and then understand how to use that.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. Like most people try to do it in Excel or some other methodology, but if you have different ERP systems and CRM systems and all this stuff, like bringing it all together, that's where it becomes challenging, because then as you make the connection, right,
Mhm.
and you start, now I want to look at different scenarios and plan this. What if this happens, or what if that happened?
Yeah.
They don't do
Yeah.
that like we do it.
Yeah.
And right,
Yeah.
the platform built on the ability to be able to do that. Takes a little work, but at the end of the day, for me, it's the stuff that I think about and look for, getting the data points that I think can have an impact. I mean, it's been awesome in that respect.
Yeah. So sales operations, it's I've learned over the last 7 to 10 years, it's kind of open to interpretation. It's depending on who you ask. Your role as a director of sales operations, like how would you summarize that? Like what are some of the key attributes of sales operations in kind of the modern era? Like how do you define it?
Sales ops covers a lot of different things.
Mm,
I think, but at its core, in my opinion, what I focus on is really driving sales effectiveness, right? Where you're going to look at processes and tools and things like that. And then sales performance, maximizing sales performance, like productivity per AE, driving, like, how do I make every AE build a process, build methodologies that drive success across the organization that is scalable and repeatable for across the organization. So, and that takes a lot of selling on my part with sales leaders. But I think at the end of the day, those are the key pieces that you have to figure out a way to drive sales effectiveness and maximize sales performance. And I think if I was to, I mean, I'm an analogy guy, but if I was to say, what role do we play? We're literally like an offensive lineman,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
We got the wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs that are, get a lot of the glory because they're out on the front lines working with the customers, hand in hand. But in order, we have to do the things that make them effective in their role. And then, if, from playing football, if the O line is not good,
Yeah.
nobody's good, right? If the
Yeah.
processes are bad, the tools are bad, the systems are bad, all that stuff is off. Nobody can perform in that situation,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But you try to create a pathway and a path forward that allows them to maximize their performance and be effective in the role. So,
Yeah.
and you don't get the glory. So you got to be comfortable not getting the glory as an offensive
Knowing your
lineman.
role. Yeah.
And if you want, hey, listen, there is glory, but
Yeah.
you'll have to get out off going on the limb here.
Absolutely. As he taunts me with this shirt on, I keep like, please don't show me this shirt. See, Tim is I knew this was gonna happen. So my last guest is also a Steelers fan. So it must be Steelers month to bring on the podcast. He's
Let's
throwing
get
me
it out.
off with this.
Yeah, get it out. And that's the fun part about it. So
Yeah.
in my past, I still consider myself a salesperson with,
Mhm.
at heart with, just got a sales operational mindset, like a
Yeah.
process
Yep.
sort of data driven mindset. That's how I got into operations. And so I
Yeah.
just try to bring that, my background as a leader, as a AE, individual contributor, frontline manager, second line manager, understanding what is important. And then
Yeah.
how do I deliver on my number? How do I get there?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
manage what I look for, what are the things that the levers I need to pull to not only do it now, but sustain it down the road. And
Yeah.
it goes into it, and understanding that most sales leaders, most salespeople, they don't look at processes and data the same way that, you and I may.
Yeah.
So you have to sell them on why and then really enable them on how.
Yeah, yeah. It's so needed, man. Like this really is a message that needs to be heard because sales, I mean, I've consulted dozens of companies at this point, and it's still such a very undisciplined practice, right? That the process element of it, it's kind of hit or miss, right? There's talent, but there's no discipline to the process. There's no, hey, I just need to do my role, execute my role in this play so that the entire team could have success, right? And it's missing, right? So how difficult is it to influence those leaders to start taking a operational process driven effectiveness quality repeatable mindset because that's a mental shift to me one and then how do you ensure like accountability to those processes going forward? I know, right? I probably asked like 10 questions, but
Like that's
I
the
love having
holy,
these conversations.
but it's the holy grail, right? So I'll give you
Yeah.
one of my phrase that pays, right? So I tell people, I say, for me, a big part of what I try to do is provide visibility. First,
Mhm.
I'm gonna show you what's happening. Visibility should drive accountability, which should ultimately lead to our profitability, right? So if I can show you what you need to focus on, right, and you can be accountable to owning it, right, then we should get to where we need to get. So that's my starting point is first talk about here's what we see, here's what's going on. And how do we want to address that? How do we want to move forward now that we know this information? And that's the piece you use a strong word, which is discipline. And it is. And I think at their nature, salespeople, most salespeople, 80%, not all, but 80% salespeople, so they're not process driven thinkers. They're not one, I go to this, to this, to this. It's relational. And it's about how things feel more so than a natural progression through certain things. They understand the concept of it. And they may even watch a lot of people have a lot of success with it. But as far as getting them to follow it, that's where sales leadership, that's a big role part of the sales leader and how they manage and coach. And I think that's a whole nother topic. How good of a coach are you?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what are your metrics tied to things that you want and the business wants, or are they tied to things that the AE wants or desires or can achieve by following the processes that we have in place? And when you lay their goals and their career aspirations around the process and the steps and the impact that it can have, to me, that's the best way to get them aligned.
I'm going to steal this, man. You just gave me another acronym, VAP. Visibility, accountability, profitability. That's the
There you go.
pathway. That
Just
is,
put
so I'm taking that from you. So if you see it, like, hey, I'll give you a shout out. That's
your
pretty
TF certified. Pretty
That's
much.
it. Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. Are there ways to incentivize behavior that is more operationally focused, right? So when we talk about accountability, it's on, sales leadership. Sales leadership is spread pretty thin, but like, what are some of your thoughts or tactics around measuring, like creating metrics around like process and effectiveness? Not just, hey, did you check this box in CRM? Did you achieve this milestone? You know what I mean? Like, did you enter the data in CRM? Like, that's cool, but it still doesn't give you that muscle memory, I don't think, from a sales discipline standpoint. Like what are some of the things you've thought about or maybe even doing around that?
I will say fundamentally okay, because you say, can you incent it? And the
Yeah.
reality is most comp plans already incent it.
Mhm.
It already incents you to go follow the process to get from stage 1 to stage 5. Now, if you say specifically, did you follow these specific steps to get there? Not necessarily. So I don't know of a way, but I think they're already compensated to try to close as much business as possible. Their job
Mhm.
is trying to figure out, how do I do this in the most effective way?
Mhm.
Right. And there's certain things that have to happen. So I think effectively, going back to the point of how, sales leaders, salespeople think, you have to use the tools to try to automate as much of that process as possible.
Mhm.
And it becomes an exercise where it is boom to boom to boom to boom to boom. Now they're going to push back around feeling like they're being restrained in this process.
Mhm.
But in order to get the scalability that you need and the repeatability that the business needs, like, we have to follow a process. And then why would I want to do that? At the end of the day, for me, like, I've tried to say, this is what these are the business metrics that we're following and why they're important.
Mhm.
And you literally are probably going to have to push 80% of your team to those metrics.
Mhm.
What I learned through lots of conversations, experience, talking to my mentor from the sales perspective is I started having one of my one-on-one sessions each month with my AEs was about what are you trying to do from a career progression standpoint? What are you trying
Mhm.
to do financially? And so it was about how much money do you need to make? What's the lifestyle you're looking to do? What are the things you're looking to buy with the money that you need to make?
Mhm.
Where are you trying to grow professionally? Are you trying to go to AE2, AE3, enterprise AE?
Mhm.
And so those are things. There are certain skills that really good AEs have
Mhm.
that people need to develop. There's certain things, if you have money and things that you need, there's certain things that you need to do. And I'm gonna say, well, in order for you to get to that amount of money, what are the activities that need to happen? What is the
Mhm.
process you need to follow to get there? And what I'm gonna do is paint the picture through the process that gets them to what they want.
Yeah.
And then when I'm coaching them about the things that they want. They
Mhm.
said they want for themselves
Mhm.
from a career perspective. I said, well, if you're going to be an enterprise AE, these are the things that you have to get really good at.
Yeah.
And I'm measuring you and managing you and coaching you to those types of things. In order for you to get the second house, or you want to get this boat or this new car, this is the money you need to make. This is where your activities need to be. This is what needs to happen for you to make that happen.
Yeah.
And I found like the coaching is received differently when I'm talking about the stuff they want,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I can coach harder.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
riding you to help you get to what you want.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day,
That's
for me as a sales lead, that's the reason why good salespeople go into management is because they love helping people. They love
Yes.
helping them achieve things or more than they thought they could have achieved, right? That's the awesome part for a sales manager is watching somebody put in the work, put in the time and achieving it. And that's fun for us. Like not
Yeah.
because it's not the money's cool. That's always part of it. I'm trying to win.
Mhm. Mhm.
But those things for their family, those things for their career that you feel like you help put some wind behind, that's the awesome part to me. That's the stuff
Yeah.
that when we look back on our career, those are the awesome things that good sales leaders kind of really hone in on. And I think
Yeah.
that's how you do it, not only for them, but for yourself as a leader to
Yeah.
really push them up. And then you can go hard in the paint
Yeah.
about what they want for themselves. If
Yeah.
they
For
push
sure.
back and say, hold on, man, hold on. This is what you said you wanted.
Yeah.
I don't want a
Yeah.
more, nigga,
Yeah.
you don't really want that car.
Yeah.
Right? You don't really, you ain't really trying to, you're not really trying to become an enterprise sales leader.
Yes. Yeah.
How do they respond to that?
Yeah. Man, you're dropping some gems, and I'm gonna tell you where my mind is going. It's so interesting how the drivers of human behavior are the same across the board. You just said you start with the outcome. What's the end game? What's the thing they want to achieve? So then why don't sellers do the same thing with their customers? They get so focused on what I'm selling you, the features of it, all like, but did you take the time to understand what I, as the customer, want to achieve and then paint that pathway to that outcome? Because that's value. That's what I'm going to invest in. That's what any human is going to invest in. They're going to invest in what they value and they're going to invest in the outcome they want to achieve. And I think that's another part of that sales discipline that I see from my end that's missing from a consistency standpoint. They forget about, they don't take time to understand, hey, if I'm talking to a head of research and development, they have this outcome. If I'm talking to a CEO, they're looking through a very different lens. Their outcomes are more economic impact, big picture, you know what I mean? High level strategic outcomes. And that's what we forget sometimes as humans. Yeah, we may have different personas, but we all have an outcome or outcomes we're chasing. And we need to be able to see, to your point, you show them, right? Reality. You give them a picture, you give them visibility. This is what it looks like today. Now we're looking at the same reality. Now we can go from this unified reality to future that we desire.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I think we give some sellers more credit than they deserve in
Oh,
terms
totally.
of most times when things don't happen, it's just two things. It's skill or will.
Yeah.
And if you assume what you just said is will, when you say discipline and
Hmm.
when you say, to forget to do it, that's a will
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
But the reality is, I think, in my opinion, most of them don't know how to do it because they don't think that way. That's not how
Hmm.
they operate in their life. They don't
Right.
think from that perspective. They're relational.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's not what is the outcome? And what are the steps I get? How do I get there? But that's exactly what every CEO, everybody that's in a role, they've got business problems and business challenges that they're looking to solve for. And they're saying, how do I do this? Do I have the right tools? Do I have the right people? Do I have the right process?
Hmm.
And if they've said, well, part of the challenge is we don't have the right tool to be able to do this. So what is the right tool? How do I help them sift through that? Right. And if you don't, at the end of the day, everybody knows about selling value and the importance of selling value.
Hmm.
But if you don't start at the end and understand how the problem and what
Hmm.
the impact of solving that problem is for that business, more often than not, you're probably going to undersell your solution, not be able to get the value,
Hmm.
sell on the value of that solution to that business. We're at that inflection point because we can sell massive deals. We can get in there and try to compete with a point solution around just how we can do territory and
Hmm.
quota point.
Hmm.
We say this is connected. This is the vision of connected planning across your organization. Not only
Yeah.
how the territory and quota planning will tie into your financial planning, tie into your long range planning, tie into your supply chain planning, all of these things,
Yeah.
inventory planning, demand planning. We can do all that. Now that's a lot for somebody to absorb, right? And that's a lot for somebody to know how to sell.
Hmm.
But the problem is you got to start with that end in mind, work your way back and help them get there.
Yeah.
There are people willing to put their careers on a solution because they think if I can do this here, number one, I'm gonna go up in this company, or it'll create additional opportunities for me down the road
Yeah.
if I want to even go even further. If I want to go from a VP or a EVP to a C level role, this is the type of the transformational type project that I want to be a part of that will take me
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And I think with the enterprise, because you guys have a pretty large enterprise team from what I understand. I mean, in the enterprise space, there's even more opportunity, right? It's opportunity to win, and then there's opportunities for a lot of risks too, right? It's like the bigger the reward, the bigger the opportunity, the more potential risks that are there, which kind of leads me to my thought, like when we were talking about incentivizing behavior. One thing that I've been thinking about and we're incorporating into our platform is a risk-based module, right? So think of it like this. If I know in my sales process there are 5 things that I have to achieve in order to get that sale, must-haves, right? They're critical data points, critical deliverables, whatever it is, but there's 5 of them, right? And if I get all 5, then I know my risk are 0 to none, right? But if I get 2 out of the 5 and there's 3 still outstanding, that's a higher risk. So maybe there's a way to, let's say at the end of the quarter, end of the, or semi-annually or whatever it is, right? Or annually, you look at a rep's performance from a risks perspective. Are they doing the right things? You put it in place, right? Sales ops says, these are the 5 things we must have in order to get a deal closed. This is proven from research. Rep A is nailing it, right? They're 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5. And then at the end of the year says, well, not only did you do a good job hitting your number and selling, but you also mitigated the risk to the business. You maximized our revenue, right? You put us in the best position to win and to be profitable. We're going to give you another commission, or you know what I mean? Like we're going to give you additional capital infusion or whatever, because you did that. So not only did you hit your number, but you did it the right way. Again, just something to think about. I don't know. I haven't heard of any companies doing that yet, but just from, being in sales for so long and seeing all this stuff, I'm like, I think that may be the way, right? If you can quantify the risk metrics and make it something that's almost like a science, right? It can't be something that's too nuanced or ambiguous or whatever, but I think there's a way to do it. If we know those elements, if we can compartmentalize and say, hey, we got 5, or whether it's 10, doesn't matter how many buckets it is. But if you hit all 5 or all 10 buckets, you're automatically improving the success of the business, and we should reward you for it.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think this is what is the challenge to that. I say, and we use this analogy, but I use like I went to like a sip and strokes, like a sip and paint event, and they put a really cool picture up and they say this is how you paint it, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't frame up how you do you can do whatever you want to do, but this is what we're trying to recreate.
Yeah.
And between the wine or whatever people were sipping on and people's skill set, what you saw at the end, it kind of resembled, okay, I see the tree and it might have been I don't know what this is, but a bird,
yeah.
Right? The variations of seascapes and treescapes was crazy. And I think what we're saying is, and this is, and I think a lot of salespeople are very artistic and how they do what they do. There's an art to selling. We're saying, hey, here's a picture we want you to paint. And we say, this is how you do it. And then they go out and they do their version of it. Mm-hmm. And then when we look at it, we're like, well, it's kind of what we want, but not really what we want. And it's like, the reality of it is, if you want it to be something that where you get the outcome that you expect in a repeatable way, it's not a sip and paint. It's a paint by numbers exercise. It's like, I draw it out clearly. You're painting in these lines, this color into this box, into this line, into this shape, or whatever it is. So that when you do this, we know exactly what we're going to get. Right now, salesperson will see that painting and know I'm going to be able to paint exactly what that is.
Right.
The reality of it is, selling is like that, because you say, here are the steps that we need to follow. And if you do it right, right, this is the outcome. You're going to get paid.
Yeah.
And they don't do it.
I though, like what that, bro, like this is where I'm banging my head against the wall. It's like, if you give them the model, you give them the formula, you give them the numbers to paint by, and you show them this is the outcome.
Right. I've got another analogy for you, man. If you look at, I watch a lot of nature shows. If you look at lions in the Serengeti, right, when they roll up, try to wildebeest, right, they're not focused. They're not like saying, what's the hardest, strongest, fastest wildebeest out here? No, they're saying, no, where's that joker with the bow? What's the opposite of the broke hoof? He got his hoof snapped off by a crocodile like last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, eat. So they and AEs look, what's my easiest food to go get?
hmm
And
hmm
the difference between the easiest food and the most rewarding food, bigger meal, is effort and work.
Yes.
And so what is an AE's thing is they're going to say, well, do I need to do all this? Well,
hmm
to get the right result, to get a repeatable result, you do.
Yeah.
But if they eat off of less effort, less
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
that's it. Then they say, okay, now do you want more? Is that going to get you to your number?
hmm
You're going to try to get to their number, finding the injured wildebeest
Yeah.
before they start focusing on the ones that are a little bit faster.
Yeah. No, that makes
So,
sense. That
and
makes sense.
that is the natural thing. If they can eat well enough, if they're
Yeah.
comfortable enough in that role, eating that little bit of food every now and then, and
Yeah.
that's where the sales leadership comes in. Are they comfortable? Are non-performers comfortable on your team? And should they be?
So that means you're giving too high a base salary then, man. You paying these folks too much then. If they're comfortable, I don't know, man. Again, that's just my
And I don't mean comfortable in, there is financial comfort, but I'm talking about their mental comfort. If you have a person that is not performing on your team, how comfortable should they be not performing on
okay.
this? As a sales
I
leader, how
Yeah.
comfortable do you want them not performing on your team?
Okay. I got you. I got you. Yeah.
And you got to fix it. Like, I'm not here for that. Because here's the reality: that same process that gets you to the biggest, toughest wildebeest
Yeah.
will easily get you to the little weak one.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not even questioned.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just table scraps. But the real meat, the real food, the real things that drive a business or make a business profitable is the process to be able to go get the big one. Because at the end of the day, if you only can eat broke hoofs, wildebeest, you ain't gonna eat but for so long, because they get thinned out across the
That's
board.
right. Yeah. That's right.
So at some point, that's going to go away, and all that low hanging fruit is gone. Now it's down to the skill set, and then that's when will die off. Right now, you're
Yeah.
swapping people out to go get that know how to chase the bigger wildebeest. And I think you got to, as an organization, you got to create a process that trains people how to go get the wildebeest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
along the way, and you're gonna have some bluebirds, you're gonna have some broke hoofs that you're able to grab. That's easy money.
Yeah.
You're
But you can't
focused
live off. Yeah. You can't rely on it.
you can't, and it's not scalable because it's not repeatable. You don't know when
Right.
somebody else will break a hoof.
Yeah. That's
Right?
true.
You don't know. You
Yeah.
can't predict
That's
it.
an uncontrollable. Yeah. Yeah. For
Then
sure.
Right. And then you're waiting around trying to find it.
Yeah.
And so that's where, as a sales leader and as an organization, you have to drive the process that delivers the outcome.
Yeah.
You can't let them get comfortable not following the process.
So another question. So how many sales leaders, or how much do you think sales leaders being afraid of conflict matters in this whole play, right? Because if you say, hey, well, you got an underperforming rep or reps on your team and they're comfortable, how much do you think is that the leader's inability to create healthy conflict, right? In that environment? Because I've seen a lot of leaders, man, that they don't like confrontation. They don't like to coach. They don't like to do those things, right? And somebody had put up a post the other day on LinkedIn. This young man was talking about how leaders need to step up. And I agree based on the context, right? And I said, the issue sometimes isn't just the leader. I think it's the hiring model. We don't know the attributes of good leadership. And I think one of those attributes is the ability to create healthy conflict within your organization to drive performance. That's not something they're even asking on an interview sometimes.
No, I would agree. Because here's the reality. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about, you have to make the metrics that matter. You got to align them to what they want for themselves. Where they have an issue with conflict is when I want something different than you want. That's the conflict. Right. But now if we had our one-on-ones, and I know you're trying to get to second house, you're trying to put your kids through college, you got to build this fund, or you're trying to get to a certain economic point so that your wife no longer has to work or your husband no longer has to work. We're aligned. There is no disconnect. There is no conflict. I'm coaching you to what you want.
Yes.
So that makes it easy for me. So you don't like to micromanage. You don't like to have these kind of conversations. You got to be the type of coach that knows his people and what they want. And it changes every year because last year's price ain't this year's price, right?
Yes.
You know that.
Yep.
So you say, now what? Now that now that you got there, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is a lot of people don't always know that. I make it sound easy. Like you just tell them, find out what they want. But first time you ask them, you're probably going to have maybe 20% that can give you an answer.
Yeah.
The other 80, they're like, yeah, let me think about that for you.
Right.
And you already know
Mm-hmm.
that's where your gap is. That's the one you're gonna have to manage a little bit differently. But once they start thinking about it and talking to it, and that's where you're coaching, you got it's like any other discovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes time to develop. What is their end game?
Mm-hmm.
How do I help you get there?
Yeah.
Because you're selling them on the same thing you're selling your customers on, a vision of the future.
Yeah.
And it's their vision. And if you don't do that with your AEs on a regular basis and check in and inspect what you expect and drive it and coach them that way, they'll get there. Some of them are going to get there without you. But if you want to get your whole squad there, that's how you get your whole squad there. And that's how you manage. You can manage them hard and not have conflict.
Yeah.
We're talking about what you want. Why they don't get mad at you for talking about what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's what I've found. That's what's worked way better for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I realized like y'all don't want what I want. Now you may get in a situation where you want it more than they want it.
Yeah.
And then that's still more coaching. That's what they'll become because they're not aligned. They're saying they want something, but they don't really want it.
Yeah.
If you could compensate it,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, is there a way to compensate? It's already compensated. That's the fun. Problem is I can get some compensation.
Yeah.
Not doing the work. It's a capital. You maximize the opportunity. And when that opportunity goes away, now how do I get to the next one? Do you have the skills to get there? Have you trained yourself?
Yeah.
You got to put past that, the easy food and get them trained up on how to go get the real stuff.
Yeah, this is probably going to keep me up at night. You and I are going to have to put our heads together and figure this part out, man. I think there's something else that we could do. I think we could figure out together. I mean, we'll talk about it offline, but I think there's ways to drive some efficiency at a different level.
I think there are probably tools. Like I think you certain things you make happen through there's carrots and sticks and like some things just don't. It's not even optional not to do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
How we get there, and then you have, but there's a lot of coaching. There's a lot of talking through, making them understand why it's important, why you take steps.
Yeah,
right? But our nature is to try to get there with the least amount of effort. If you look at all the diet pills and
oh my God, yes,
shit, we know the most predictable path to getting fit is eating clean and exercising regularly.
Universal law, yes.
What if I don't want to eat as clean?
You're right.
Well, I don't want to eat as regularly. Okay, what else could I do? And that's our human nature. Our human nature is to get the max for the minimum.
Yeah.
So how do I always get you focused on operating at a maximum level? It's not compensate because you know what happens if you do it. We know what happens if we eat clean but the discipline, the want to, the have to do it, that is not there. Because I'm like, I'll be out with a couple inches. I'll be out with you know what I mean? I'll
right.
What do you want? Yeah. And you are fighting nature. You're fighting human nature. You're fighting our animalistic instinct.
Yeah.
Now, the only possible way is through some sort of inspiration or motivation. Hopefully a lot of something you want. Then I'm here to help keep pushing you. When you get frustrated and you're like, I don't really want to do it, you got to have that vision. You got to be looking out. You're not focused on the obstacles in front of you. You focus on where you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
And I'll keep, don't worry. We'll get past that. Keep looking.
Yeah.
And that's what the coach does. That's how you get them there.
Yeah.
There's certain things you have to force them through, and then they'll get it over time, but you can't ever let them not do it because they're going to want to not do it. And anytime they look for that opportunity to not really focus on it, you can never let up.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you one area that I have this conversation probably once or twice a month. We have a pipe gen and a pipe progression target for each of our teams based on all kinds of different metrics that go into it, win rates and this, that. And then we have an expectation at the AE's level that they have to do every single week. which is way over like the normal pipe gen target for a pod.
Hmm.
And I'll say, well, that ain't the real. The AE expectation isn't the real number. And I'm like,
Hmm.
well, why would you not go after that number? Why would you lower the expectation? And to me, pipe gen, if you look at how people manage pipe gen,
Hmm.
to me, that lets you know the type of sales leader that they are. Because
Hmm.
that's the easiest thing to beat the hell out of an AE on. Because
Hmm.
what's the outcome of them create more pipeline?
You're
More
gonna
work.
sell more, hopefully. I mean, you have a higher chance to convert.
You got to hire, like, so why would I ever take the pressure off of you of creating pipe?
Yeah, always be building pipeline. Yeah, yeah,
I'm never looking for a way to make it easier. Say, oh,
yeah,
that ain't reasonable. What do you mean it's
yeah,
not reasonable?
yeah,
Is it? Could it be?
yeah.
Do
Because
you
the
want
room
it to?
for error is shrinking a lot, right? And in this environment, it's like you better have more at bats, more opportunities because you can't
And
miss.
right. That's the one easy thing for me. Like if you manage their pipe gen hard, you already know the outcome. It's a win for them and it's a win
Hmm.
for you. So
Hmm.
never we don't need that. They don't need that much. Why
Yeah,
not? And
yeah,
I just understand like what's the conflict.
yeah.
They're telling you they can't. You tell me why you can't.
Hmm.
What's stopping you? What I need you to do to help you do this every single week.
What kind of pushback are you seeing? Do you hear it? Are they saying, "Oh, well, the sales automation isn't working, or marketing is not good enough," or like, what reasons are you getting from AEs or their leaders? Because I know you're working with the leadership, right? What are you hearing? What kind of pushback are you hearing as to why they're not building pipeline? I do. Look, we already said there would be probably a part two of this, but this is really, I have to ask.
Because when I say, well, why is it not? Why do you think it's unreasonable?
Hmm.
Because not everybody does. Do you know any teams that do? I say, why does somebody not achieving it make it unreasonable?
Hmm.
You think people put the right effort around it every single week?
Also, they're trying to make the excuse of, well, such and such is not doing it, so I
Well,
can't
that's
do
what
it. Or I mean,
when I push back on the sales leader. They're like, well,
okay,
how many people are doing it? I said, there are some people that do it.
yeah,
And I would
yeah,
say, why would somebody else not being able to do it impact you being able to do it?
yeah. It
If
makes
you
you
know
lower
what
your
they're
bar.
yeah, and I
Right,
say,
right.
because you saying you just want company to say,
Yeah,
well, I'm the only one.
yeah,
That
yeah,
don't
yeah,
make it
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't want you to be, and I got told you before, I don't want people to feel comfortable not producing.
yeah.
I want you trying to figure out a way to produce. And my point is we're talking about this. Why is it unreasonable? Are
Hmm.
they, first thing I look at, it's a process, right? Do you put the right amount of time into it?
Hmm.
That's the starting point. If you say yes, okay, then let's figure out time is there, the effort's right. What's the message? Let's look at what's being done and what's being
Hmm.
said and how you're going
Hmm.
about it and try to get to the end result we want. But if you're not putting a consistent effort in every single week to get there, and then you're telling me that it's not possible,
Yeah,
I would agree. Like the way you operate, I would agree.
yeah.
But it's not the reality. It's not impossible. It's not possible the way you work.
Hmm.
Now we unpack that and we figure out how do we get there? What would it take for you to get there? Like what type of effort would it take? Because here we
Yeah,
go again.
yeah.
I'm gonna eat for the minimum effort, maximum return. That's the approach.
Is
Like
it
get
is
to
it
my number.
difficult to hold them accountable though? Like if you're saying, "Hey, let's look at the effort. Let's look at look at the task, look at the outbound, whatever it may be." Do you go that deep with them to show them like, "Hey, here are the activity metrics. This is where it is, and this is based on these activity metrics. I'm predicting you're not going to hit that number." Like, is that something you really
Okay,
push them on, or?
I think we kind of get it because we're at least I'm using Anaplan. Like when I was at Sage and I had my team, like inbound sales metrics, I had the metrics
Mm,
from start to finish. I knew how many calls it took for you to make X amount of, net new ACV, whatever that was. And like, how do you get to
mhm,
your number? The activities that get you
yeah,
there. We're starting to get there now. So you can see, like, you'll start seeing big things where you see somebody's got, and we look at meetings, right? We have a field sales team. So meetings is a really big metric.
mhm,
We look
yep,
at, man, this person sent out 16,000 emails and got
mhm.
4 meetings. So, well, shit.
Horrible conversion, but yeah, okay, I get it.
The effort's there,
The
right?
effort's there.
It's an effort there,
Yeah,
right? And then you'll see people that don't have any meetings.
yeah,
You see different variations, but I think it's understanding that we know that certain activities are going to deliver a certain
mhm,
amount of pipe gen and pipe progression, which ultimately will deliver the net new ACV that we want. We got,
mhm,
starting point, really focusing in on this activity metric, this meeting metric. Are your activities driving meetings? Right.
Mhm.
And so you'll see they'll start looking for other things. Like if the activities aren't there, they'll be like, well, can y'all track my text messages and my cell phone calls? I mean, you don't want us tracking your text messages and cell phone calls.
Right.
Why are you having this conversation? That's good that
Right.
you have a relationship with that particular person.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're not trying to solve for. Like they talk about Big Brother and then they
Mhm.
want to track these other people. Like, no,
Right.
like, well, can I log the calls in Salesforce so that you can see I am making calls? Like
Mhm.
we can, but I think there's a better use of your time. Logging call, like I don't care the calls, like
Yeah.
because meetings are what matter. Put it on,
Exactly.
and
Not
and I
busy
don't
work.
what
Yeah.
having to do manual inputs to track shit that doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
your meetings are going to pull over from Outlook.
Yeah.
Where you want, we're going to see that you don't have to do it. So if you want it, well, I had a phone call. Should I log it as a meeting? Okay, so after you have a phone call, are you going to go put an Outlook invite on your calendar with
Yeah.
their email address so they get an invitation so that
Mhm.
you can document a phone call you had to treat it like a meeting versus going out and go get a dang meeting. Go
Yeah.
schedule another meeting,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It matters. So that's the type of stuff you'll get
Mm.
lost in the sauce. They'll take you, bang you through, take you through the forest and try to hit your head on every tree. Focus
Yeah.
on the right thing. It's about
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the certain activities will lead to certain outcomes,
Yeah.
and we want to inspect and make sure these activities are the right activities because you could have
Yeah.
8, 10 bad meetings, right? You could just be meetings about you're just listening in on center of excellence calls or you're listening in on partner calls. That's not necessarily going to drive the pipeline outcomes that we expect. It's always about what has actually happened, the numbers, because they'll do things to manipulate numbers, and that's not really it. There are certain things that you can coach hard. I think pipeline is one of them because it is we know the outcome of that is
Mhm.
always good for the AE.
Mhm.
And if you get mad at me for coaching you up on pipeline, right? Then I know I probably didn't hire the right person.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
have that conversation early on. Here are the things that I'll need you to focus on. And I'll tell you where I'm gonna coach you up real hard.
Mhm. Mhm.
Pipeline.
Yeah.
Pipeline. Like I don't care. Like you're gonna look for me to let up 1 week. Mm-mm. I
Yeah.
won't. I never will because I know the benefit to you and your family is too great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's real leadership, man, and that just brings me back because I think we probably should do a session on just leadership alone. Um, yeah, just
And I think
because
that's
it's
where
just
at
this
the end of the day, that's where I think the gap is.
it's a
You
big
gotta
gap.
lead them.
Yeah.
The frontline sales leader is the most important role in the business, and you have to have really strong leaders in that role to deliver your outcomes. Because if they're
Wow.
like the sales people,
Yeah. Yeah.
you they not this ain't really important. I don't really have to
Yeah.
manage it.
Yeah. That is
Then
that is a powerful statement, man. That it actually brings me back to I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I wrote this book called um The Leadership to Functional Know-How. And that was one of the things that I think you and I and a lot of the leaders at Sage were really we understood the weight of a frontline leader. They were the cornerstone of culture, performance. Like it's critical, man, and I think in some spaces, man, that whole leadership and enablement model needs to be overhauled because it's not we're not hiring the right leaders for the right attributes. We're not giving them the right model to become better leaders, not managers. That's a whole different conversation. It's the difference between managers and leaders. And so I think that's, yeah, if I'm hearing you correctly, man, that's where things are falling through the cracks big time.
let me ask you this. I used to ask this question, that leadership and management question. I know it's off, but I said, can you be a good leader and not be a good manager? And can you be a good manager and not be a good leader? And I
I,
like to hear how people think about it. Like,
mm, mm,
because
man, that's interesting. Yeah, I've never been asked that question.
I think they're tied together tighter than people think.
Mhm, mhm. I'm probably overly analytical, like, that's just my behavioral type. So I would say, yes, it's possible to be one or the other, good at one, not good at the other, and vice versa. But where do you see the connect? Like, where do you see the interconnection between those 2?
Here's where I think to get, so as a manager, you can be good at making sure things get done,
Mhm.
right? And so you say, that's good. And at the end of the day, because things get done, things look to be in a certain order, but there's always a how. Why does it happen? How does it happen?
Okay. Okay.
All right. Now you go away. Does it keep happening?
Mhm.
Right. Leadership.
Mm.
You're a good leader.
Yeah.
You don't need to be there to make it happen.
'Cause you've infused it into the culture. It's not just, "Hey, I'm tasked and,
Because they
you know,
know
check
why
my."
it's important and they know
Yeah,
why
yeah,
they
yeah,
need to
yeah.
do it.
Okay,
But
I like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you can be a good manager and not a good leader, but it will go away as soon as you go away.
yeah.
And to be a good leader, you have to be a good manager
Mhm.
because you need to be able to inspect what you expect.
Yeah.
And part of your influence, you're influencing things to get done
Mhm.
for the right reason and
Mhm.
the right way, right? And that's a combination. And so you can see now, if you are not a good leader
Mhm.
and you're not a good manager, what is the impact on your business, especially from a frontline person?
Mm.
I promote a
Mm.
good salesperson to sales leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or have they shown you strong leadership?
Mhm.
They've shown you the ability to manage certain
Mhm.
things around, right? And
Mm.
they're connected. Because I don't think you can be a good leader if you're not a good manager. But I don't think you need to be a good leader to be a good man, like to be a
Mm.
manager.
Right.
It's not, and it'll look a certain way on the surface,
Yeah.
but it's right. It's skin deep, right? It's
Makes
not
sense.
that real deep embedded cultural process that we would want.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want scalability and repeatability, right,
Mhm.
you need leadership to make that happen.
So
But
now then you probably already answered my next question. So I was gonna be mindful of our time, mindful of your schedule. I have one final question, and I think you may have already kind of answered it, but if you wanna double down a little bit more, be my guest. But if you could give some advice to, maybe a junior sales ops leader or one that may be struggling, what's some advice you would give to someone in that role that may be looking for better ways to drive results in a world of like ambiguity, disparate teams, siloed teams? Like what would be that thing if you said, hey, focus on this one thing? Rome wasn't built in a day, but if you can focus on this one thing, junior sales or sales ops leader, what would that thing be?
sales and because it's different, that's probably different for sales
Well, yeah,
and
break them
sales
down.
ops.
Yeah, if a sales leader, okay, so maybe there's one piece for a sales leader and then one for a sales ops leader. So yeah, give me both because I get what you're saying. It's
I would
probably different.
say, and I'll just speak to me that probably the most impactful things from my perspective in my career. I would say as a sales leader, you've got to know why your sales team wakes up every morning and comes into work. Like, where are they trying to go?
Okay, intrinsic motivation. Yep,
How much do they need to make?
yep.
Where are they trying to go with their career? I think what I've seen too with especially the millennial quote generation, they're
Mm-hmm,
very sensitive to movement and progress. Like, if they
mm-hmm,
don't get in that feel like they're about to get promoted in 2 weeks, they're looking for something else, right?
right.
So the first thing you have to establish with them is their path forward. What are they working towards? So every day they
Mm-hmm,
come in, they know they're working towards this goal that you and them have that they've communicated to you, and you're working to help facilitate with them. And then
mm-hmm,
obviously the money associated with it from a sales perspective. How much money do they need to make to live the lifestyle that they want? And those are and so knowing those things about your people make the coaching way
mm-hmm,
easier and way more
mm-hmm,
effective.
mm-hmm,
You can go hard in the paint. We talked about it. It's not as they're not as resistant. You're not having to go through as much conflict around it because we're talking about things they want. And we talked about how that, I think, along the way, how that
mm-hmm,
important is
mm-hmm,
every step of the way. Because
mm-hmm.
anytime they don't want to do anything, you got to go back to them.
Right,
Anytime they
right.
push back, like let's talk about why we're doing it and
Mm-hmm,
why they come into work every day. So I think that's
mm-hmm,
an important piece of the puzzle. For a sales ops person, I would say the thing that helps me the most is having been a salesperson and a sales leader. Like I
mm-hmm,
know what I didn't want to do as a salesperson,
mm-hmm,
what I didn't want to have to do as a sales leader. So I look for ways. I'm a problem solver by nature. I look for ways to mitigate that risk. Right.
mm-hmm,
I don't hire to I hire to my strengths, not my weaknesses. I don't like
mm-hmm,
micromanaging people.
mm-hmm.
I don't hire people that need to be micromanaged, right? So I think
Okay.
one of the things from a sales ops perspective is that helps me is I have that experience,
Mm-hmm,
but I spend, a big chunk of my week is one-on-ones with sales leaders, the
mm-hmm,
APs I support, the RVPs I support. And I just
mm-hmm,
talk about stuff.
mm-hmm,
I see how they manage their business. I see what things they think are important. and I kind of understand where their head's at. And I learn how to support them better through
Mhm.
those conversations. I may use hypothetical things, but how do you manage, like, how do you talk about pipeline with your team? Right.
Mhm.
I'll be on some of their forecast calls. I'm listening in, but
Mhm.
I ask those types of questions. Well, how do you get this? How do you make this happen? What do you focus on?
Mhm. Mhm.
I just learned through that process how they operate. I think the best thing, it's easy to get locked into the numbers and the metrics and all that data because that's fun and really, really cool. But at the end of
Mhm.
the day, when it all comes down to it, is how do I take that information,
Mhm.
who as it is, as powerful and impactful as it is, and drive action from a sales team. I got to be able to talk to them in a way
Yeah.
and motivate them in a way that they want to take that and they want to act on that. And
Yeah.
I can't do that if I don't know how you talk. I don't know how you speak. I don't know what you care about.
Right.
Right? And I know people's leadership styles where there's going to be a gap and where there's going to be adoption.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then look for ways to drive more adoption or get more alignment. Right. And
Yeah.
there's pieces, there's layers. Like, so that's sometimes the AVP has to come down and help support and drive certain
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
The RVPs have to do certain things to get it down to where we need to. So that's the leadership always comes into it. But knowing that is impactful. Because I know some really awesome, smart, super powerful people that know data inside and out. But now, can they take that, work with the sales team, and get actions on those things? That's the
Yeah.
hard part, right? Because it comes back
Yeah.
to all the other stuff we talked about, the
Yep.
motivations and that. Because they don't look at the world the same way we do,
Yeah.
and they're not going to. They're
Yep.
never going to.
Yep.
It's about painting the picture for them that gets the result that you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hard part, and that's it. So how do you learn how to do that? It starts with your interactions with salespeople. You gotta know how they think, how they operate, so
Yeah.
that you bridge that gap, and I think there's always gonna be really good data people, right? There's probably, who are the ones that know how to take that, work with the team and drive a result,
Mhm.
right? There's probably not a lot of ops people that are good at that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I hopefully try to set myself apart as, and I think people that I work with look at me as a business partner
Yeah.
that's kind of looking at it through their lens with the understanding of the data to help them get to where they need to get to.
Have you ever considered cloning? Because think about it, man. Like your level of experience, not a lot of people have, right? It's not a lot of people have been exposed to what you've been exposed to. And so the thing I want to kind of layer on top of what you're saying is I'm coaching teams to start using like behavioral science tools, right? To kind of shorten that experience gap. So everything that you know through all of your years of experience, your dynamic exposure, you can take some of that and institutionalize it using a tool that aligns with some of the things that we're talking about right now. Like what are the motivational drivers of various individuals? And it helps keep that younger, more junior leader focused on those things, right? And it kind of shortens that experience gap. It's taking all of our knowledge, our experience, what we've done and what we know about human nature, and there's tools that can help enable some of that coaching. So I don't know if Anaplan, you guys probably do as large as you are, but I've used a couple of tools that have been very, very successful in transforming the behaviors of certain cultures and making sure we stay consistent with those behaviors.
Yes, all that stuff is important. It comes down to leadership,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, that frontline leadership and their
Hmm.
alignment to that, to
Yeah.
really focus on that area and make
Yeah.
it a reality is important. Like, how do we get that? Because as you were talking about, all I could think about was I know how to make my body not look overweight. Now, right? These things we're talking about, there's fundamental things that you do. Like, there's no
Yeah.
shortcut to this,
Yeah.
right? I can learn from other people. Like, the fastest, most predictable way is to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Yeah. The behavioral stuff is this. This is what we've seen. Not
Hmm.
go do it. Like, that's not
Yeah.
enough. It's not enough for people
Yeah. Yeah.
because the difference is we think it's about the money, and it's not. It's about
Yeah.
what they want to buy with the money,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And the
And
money is just a pathway to the outcome. It's not the
yeah,
end
so that's
game.
why
The
money
end
is not the
game is yes.
no. That's why the money is not is not the motivator for every salesperson will tell you, I
They
like to
all
make money.
yep. Yep.
But that's not the reality. Because
Yeah.
if you really like making money the way you say you like making money, everybody would be at 100% of their comp plan because they would do whatever they needed to do to get
Yeah.
there.
Yes. Agreed.
And
Agreed.
it ain't. I'm saying, well, I don't need all that money. I can live the lifestyle I want and buy the
Yeah.
things that I like or live the way I want to live right here.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah.
There's a handful of them that say
Yeah.
and I was one of those guys. Like I want every dollar you're willing to pay, put into the
Yeah.
comp plan. I'm trying to get all mine and then some of somebody else's if I can.
So greedy. So greedy. Just like a typical Steelers fan, bro. Just
We
greedy.
won
It's like
we won
it's
all the trophies.
never good enough. It's never
We
good
won
enough.
all the trophies every year. And you did. And we're all you're competitive, I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I want everybody to win. Like I want everybody to win.
Yeah.
I want the whole team to win.
Absolutely.
I just want to have one more point than you at the end of the day.
Right. Well, listen, man, I appreciate it. I think we're going to definitely do another session. This is beyond what I expected. So I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you go so you can go prep to watch your stinking Pittsburgh Steelers. And, I'll go pray for my Ravens and see what happens.
The funny thing, I'm so superstitious with it. Like if I start watching it and the game ain't going the way I want,
Yeah.
like I'll do all kinds. I'll like take my socks off. I'll like turn the TV off. I do all this. Like, do they play better if I don't have on socks?
Like we have that much control, right?
You mess up my hat back. Like what's going on? Like yeah, and then like my wife's sitting there looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? Huh? Turn it off. Turn it off.
In too deep.
There, and I'm like watching it on the ESPN ticker. To see if they perform better if I'm not watching and if I am watching.
Yeah.
And it can shift at any point in the game.
Yes.
And I'll always just check back in. I'll just go look, see, is it a good play, bad play? Bad play, turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I was a fanatic, man. I think you got me beat.
It's absolutely, and my dad's like, you watch the game. I watched part of it, but then I don't even see half the wins because I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking they're winning because I'm not watching it. And then I catch the highlight. And I'm like,
Too funny. Well, something to look forward to either way. Never a dull moment.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. I enjoy these types of conversations. Honestly, just trying to use my experience. And, and I think leadership is the key. I think that I bring is I understand to get where we want to be, you need to influence the outcomes and be able to influence the outcomes. And part of that is being able to speak to the numbers in a way that resonates. Like, let's cut all the noise out.
Yeah.
And let's really focus on what we're here to do.
Yes.
And focus on how this will help us get there. Right. Yeah. And what it's helping us to solve for as an organization. And then we go from there. And I say leadership is the key in all this stuff, man, because you can have all the data, you can have all the measures, you can have all the process, everything. It can be perfect.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the leadership to get people to use it and to follow the process, good job. I mean, congratulations on the process documentation.
Yeah, man. No, I think that's a great final stamp. And I agree 1,000%, 1,000%. So, thank you everybody for tuning in and helping us take the next step toward becoming the #1 revenue enablement podcast in the world. We're committed to simplifying and accelerating the pace of the complex sales process. So take a moment to like and subscribe so that you can receive alerts on future episodes. Also, follow us on our other platforms for transformative insights and tactics that will give you the leverage to win more deals and maximize your revenue while doing it. Take care. Thanks again, Tim. Y'all have a good day.
Pleasure, man.